Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee for February the 12th. And we'll start off with a roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Higgin. Councillor Beaver? Here. Councillor Campbell?
Here.
Councillor Dodick? Here. Councillor Doria?
Present.
Councillor Parker? He's absent. Councillor Wolf?
Here.
Acting Mayor Crowson?
Absolutely here.
Deputy Mayor Schmidt-Rempel?
Here.
And Mayor Higgin.
Here.
Thank you.
The City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we're gathered on the land of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people, past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationships to the land. City of Lethbridge offers respect to the Métis and all who have lived on the land and made Lethbridge their home. And move to the adoption of the agenda. I have a motion from Councillor Doria. Be it resolved that the agenda of the regular meeting of Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee on February 12th, 2026 be adopted as presented. Are there any changes, Madam City Clerk?
There are no official changes, but for Council's consideration, did they want to possibly bring forward item 6.1 to be the first item of business? I see the applicant is here, and as well to have the two airport items together for easy flow.
I think that makes sense to myself. Anyone against that? If not, we'll move forward that way. Councillor Doria, as amended.
For question?
Question's been called. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. I also have a motion from Councillor Dodick. Be it resolved that the Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee approve the minutes of the Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee held on December 11th, 2025, and authorize the Chair and City Clerk to sign the same. And number 2, receive for information the status of directed resolutions for February 12th, 2026. Councillor Dodick.
Questions?
I see no questions in the queue.
Call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? And that too is unanimous. And with a little change on the agenda, actually not this one here, Councillor, let's go to Councillor Parker.
I'll take it.
Okay. Submission in from Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, targeted redevelopment incentive policy, municipal grant for 1200 block 3, or 1200th block of 3rd Avenue South. Be it resolved, the Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee recommends City Council deny the targeted redevelopment incentive application for the 1200 block redevelopment on 3rd Avenue South, as currently there is no funding approved to support the application. And number 2, put the grant stream of the TRIP program on hold with no future applications accepted until the policy has been reviewed, updated, and funding has been allocated. Although a submission, we do have the applicant here if there's any questions, and so I just want to check with my colleagues. Councillor Crowson.
Thank you, Mayor Higgin. To the city manager or designate, as I'm looking through here, and I understand, of course, the recommendation is related to funding, but the one thing I don't see anywhere in here is a business case for this program or for this parcel of land. If we do not proceed on this, it sounds like, one, the project would not go ahead. So can somebody tell me, if we don't go ahead, what we might be missing out on related to this? What jobs might we be missing out on? What taxes in the long run might we be missing out on? Tell me the story of this business as much as you can in a public forum, or if I have to go into close, let me know. But what is the business case that I am not seeing if we don't move ahead? And again, if I have to make a motion for close because of any confidentiality, let us know.
Is this on?
Okay, good. It's like I've done this before.
Good afternoon. It's Ms. Crowson. So the TRIP program is a bit of a complicated one, especially as it comes to the grant stream. So if you take a look at the policy, there's 2 different streams for this grant. And quite often we will see applications come in for the tax cancellation stream, which generally doesn't pose the same kind of issues as with the grant stream. So the way it has operated in the past, we have not had dedicated funding for this grant stream. It's been kind of, we've only had 1 application actually come in. And so with this, there's pretty strict dollar amounts that are required for an application to even be considered. So a minimum of $500,000 in investment when it comes to a redevelopment, which is a pretty substantial amount. And so when we look at the policy, this particular application shows that there's a $6.5 million investment being made by the applicant, which would qualify them for an 8-year tax cancellation. And so that's how we base kind of the numbers even for the grant, is around what the construction value is, pre-assessed value of the property, and then post-assessed value of the property. And so we're looking at a $6.5 million investment by a private developer investing in a property that may or may not be redeveloped otherwise. Often when we look at our urban core properties, there's more risk involved with redeveloping these properties. And so those are the types of things to consider when we take a look at this. And so this particular application, it came in originally as a tax cancellation. But in speaking with the applicant, they felt that it would be more beneficial as the grant stream of the TRIP program, which is why we see it here coming forward as a grant stream ask versus the tax cancellation. And so this project has begun and is underway. That said, part of that was due to the back and forth and trying to understand how the policy as it sits now and is written would impact the applicant and the developer. And the way it's written right now, the grant stream and even the tax cancellation stream pose some problems for applicants depending on the redevelopment that is happening, which is also why number 2 here is asking for the grant stream to be put on hold until we can do a proper review of the policy.
What precisely is looking to be built here and or not built here? What is the actual project?
So this is a commercial redevelopment. So if you're not familiar with the location, I believe, I'm just trying to think of what's on that site right now.
Yeah, it's the old Elks building. There's a Tim Hortons now.
Yeah, that's right.
But what is this specifically?
So this specifically is a commercial redevelopment. And so it's slated for, there's restaurants slated on there, and I would think offices and that type of thing. If you'd like, the applicant could come up and speak a little bit more to what the redevelopment looks like, and that might help you get a better understanding of what's going to be here.
I'm sure with more people asking questions, that will probably be asked. If this is turned down, because as you say, there's a lack of funding, can they reapply for the tax cancellation? And if so, how soon could they do that after, if there is the determination by council not to move this forward?
So we could change this into a tax cancellation application, and then we would bring it forward immediately for consideration by council. But like I said, in speaking with the applicant, there's some implications with the way that the tax cancellation stream works that is a little bit challenging for the way that this redevelopment, what it is that they're proposing on the site and how it works for their future tenants. And so we flagged some of these things to also review the tax cancellation stream to see if there's a way that we could update that to make it a little bit better for all redevelopment situations and not just some of the smaller ones. So
But the tax cancellation does not require us to have money up front.
that is correct.
Okay. I know there's other questions. I have more, but I will step out right now. Thank you.
And it's something that I missed here earlier is to ask if there's anyone in the public that wishes to make a presentation on this particular motion that's in front of us. Anyone in the, all right. With that, we'll continue on with some questions. I have a question regarding number 1. It says that there's no funding approved to support the application, which we've went through and we've seen that there's no funding. If this was to be approved, where could that funding or potentially come from? Is there something that maybe you've looked at if for some reason this was to be approved today, Mr. Matthews?
Thank you, Mayor Higgin, in regards to that. So yes, similar to the past, if council was wanting to do this, what we would suggest taking from the MRSR in regards to that, so it would be another draw on the MRSR.
And currently is, you know, if you compare it to previous years, the MRSR, is it sitting at a state that is?
So, and if going back to, the audience wouldn't know this, but in the orientation, we went through a little bit here on it. What I'll give you from a September standpoint, component. Currently, at that time, we have roughly about $52 million with commitments of about 22, less the minimum balance requirement through policy. So that leaves us about 15.8 million. The one thing I would mention to council members, keeping in mind that there's a number of other things coming up that council needs to consider in that in the operating budget cycle, which could also be those things like everything from our land development and land banking strategy and so forth.
Thank you. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. So, Ms. Scheit, can you help me understand the difference between the two? So the difference between, help me understand the difference between the two. And then my follow-up question will be to the developer to help me understand why the tax cancellation wouldn't work.
Thank you for the question. So the tax cancellation stream and the grant stream are quite similar in how they're calculated. So they're calculated based on the pre-assessed value and the post-assessed value, and this is just on the municipal tax portion. And so once the redevelopment has been completed, a new assessed value will be given to that property, and the difference in those two assessments is what the cancellation would equal out to. So for the tax cancellation, that would be looked at every year, and we would evaluate what the new assessed value is and what the pre-assessed value was, and the cancellation amount is based on the difference of those two on the municipal portion of the taxes. And in the grant stream, it's calculated very similarly, but we would calculate it all upfront based on year one. So we would say, okay, what was the pre-assessed value of the property? What is the current assessed value now that the project's been completed? They had been approved for, in this case, 8 years. So we would take that amount over the 8 years, and that's how we come up with the total sum of what the grant would allow.
Okay.
And that would be paid up front.
Okay, so they would get the grant paid out as opposed to tax deferral.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And then I guess follow-up question then would be to the developer to please help me understand why the tax cancellation wouldn't work in this instance, that there are some issues with that.
Good afternoon, Ken Harvey from Concept Investment Partners. So when we're dealing with national and multinational tenants, we have to provide audited statements. And so if we have a tax roll that comes through and says our taxes should be $10,000 and we get a trip credit on there for $2,000, we can only charge back the $8,000. So what we're doing is we're actually incentivizing and providing the incentives back to multinationals. So it doesn't actually go to the developer or actually going to the development in that case. And because as soon as we have one multinational banks, so in this case Tim Hortons, who asks for audited statements, all of the tenants will get the benefit of the tax for the first number of years. The complicating factor comes into is when we go at the expiry of the tax, we are limited on how much our common area maintenance fees can go up. So, and if you ever try to negotiate with Tim Hortons or any of those people, that they don't change their contracts. So at the end of 8 years, if we go up more than the allotted percentage increase we're allowed, as a developer, we're now being penalized for the number of years until we can actually catch up.
Okay.
So it's just a functionality of our reporting that we have to give to the nationals and multinationals that cause a little bit of the headache as far as the actual property tax cancellation.
Okay, so your preferred would be the grant then?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell.
For administrators who wants to answer this, I'm just one of the things you want to do is put this on hold until a policy has been reviewed. Just wondering, what are you looking for to review? Like, what's the process going to be to review, and how long will that take? And then can you come back with an answer for that?
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. I'll start here, and if I need Ms. Scheit's help, I'll ask her to come up here as well too. But one of the reasons why I want to take a look at this program is very component here. When it comes to a grant stream component, really to have a grant stream, you actually need a dedicated budgetary source to do that. And I also, currently the way this one's written, there's some pieces in here where council would need to consider on incentivization versus grant. So an incentive typically is, for when You want to incentivize something that wouldn't already naturally occur. A grant program doesn't have the same criteria necessarily. It's an economic benefit component, and so there might be actually a better way of doing this that meets the objectives that what we just heard from the developer and so forth long term. That could, if council so wishes, could actually incentivize an area at a better way. So actually, if you take a look at some of the things we did on the recent grant program, the BERTA grant side of it there, which uses taxes in that example, but at the same point, it actually provides conditions where the owners would pay their taxes as normal. And then there'll be a grant program afterwards if they meet all the conditions that pays them either a portion back like that program, or it's unrelated to their taxes and it's just a grant program. So I think what would come back here is actually a better product that would hopefully help our developers in those areas in a different way.
Again, and just, timeline as far as saying, okay, we got the review, we got it figured out, we know what we're doing, and here it is. How long do you think that's gonna? It's going to take a bit of time and research and everything.
So a couple things on this. We can, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. One of the pieces that we would like to do on this first is have council finish off their economic development strategy as one of the pieces of areas where you want to focus on. On top of that, I'd also think that we would bring this and engage with the developer groups and so forth, and so that would take a bit of time. So I would see probably later this year or later fall at the earliest on that would come back, depending on everything else from council and as we go through. But it definitely is something that we've seen. We've, as Ms. Scheidt has mentioned, we've had one application go through this. Is the second one. As the developer is saying, there's problems when, depending on, we had problems on that first development too, and in some of the application pieces. So we do know that there is a need for a different program, and maybe it would be a better overall program and later in the fall that could come through.
So we could say it
or
was
fall or winter or whenever, as we get through the next stages.
It's been a learning lesson for administration on how this is going and how it turned out.
Yes, and so the actual trip tax cancellation for those ones that work, my understanding is it works very well on that. The grant side, but where we get into these problems where there's the tenants and so forth, depending on the type of development, this type of grant isn't necessarily working. And on top, or incentive is working as well. So we've learned that over the last little while, and I think that's why we're saying pause this, bring forward a better program that would actually meet the needs. And really what does council want to look at in those areas for incentive or straight out grant?
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Crowson.
Thank you. So to the applicant, let's just ask you quite bluntly, you've heard what's being said. Would this happen without the grant? Could this happen in a different way with the tax cancellation?
Well, yeah, there's actual functional ways that the tax cancellation could happen. So again, when we have to report our common area maintenance costs, which includes our property tax to our national and multinational tenants, we need to provide that back up to our accounting firm who does audit statements. So anything that's listed on those statements or billings that we have is reflecting the true costs that we bill back to the tenant. So, I think, City Treasurer basically alluded to it. It could come back after the fact, after the taxes are paid, and then it gets paid back after. Mm-hmm. That's one way to incentivize the developer and the development itself. So that's one functional way through this program that could be done even through the tax cancellation.
But no, let me ask you again bluntly. If we do not agree to this grant, will this project go ahead?
It's already under construction.
Already under construction. Okay. Thank you. I will step out right now.
Thank you. Councillor Bieber.
Just a question to administration. If we did use the MRSR, would that set a precedent, and would that precedent impact other businesses or our finances if it was come up again?
Thank you, Councillor Bieber. So one of the things that so we have had in the past year, I guess I'm going through the two pieces. So the TRIP program already has, in the past one, used the MRSR once already to give a one-time grant outside of that. What I'm also going to say, the caution side of it is that the reason why you want a funding program when we do a grant program in longer term and have funding set aside, whether it's one-time money that you earmark and so forth, and and once that maximum is set, is so that you don't overspend coming from that grant area and you don't have other ones coming through. So I think it would be very frustrating for the development community if they were coming through and with a grant application process and then only to find we didn't have sufficient funds inside of the MRSR, or if we'd allocated all the stuff out of the MRSR and then you couldn't do some of the things that you wanted to do in the future for other projects. So I think, my recommendation would be for council that, in the longer term, if you want a grant program and this kind of nature, you'd actually want to dedicate a certain amount of money to the program for the budgetary period. And then once that money's used, that's all you would take in. No different than the municipal, event hosting grant or any of those other ones, so that you have control mechanisms on the budget to spend.
Just to follow up then, so I guess we should consider that to be off limits then, just simple term question.
Well, in this case here, I mean, what I'm saying is the long term as you're moving forward, council should consider creating for a grant program, dedicated grant funding ongoing in either the operating budget or capital budget, depending what nature of the grant is. For this one-time piece, and if you're closing it, that's something council can always consider.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. So to the city manager designate on this one, we heard Mr. Matthews say this is the second grant application we've had go through, and there were issues with that one as well. So why are we just deciding now to review, and why did we leave the program open as it stands? Because it seems like we're willing to give the grants, but really we're not. And so now we have an applicant who applied in good faith that we would be willing to do this.
So I'll start, and then I know that Ms. Scheit has some things when we were discussing this earlier today as well too. But this is one of the areas in here as we go through and take a look at the grant program. We haven't had a whole lot of activity inside of here. Just probably from the point of view of grant application side on it. I think in all fairness, we probably should have brought this forward and closed it off at the end of the last one as we went through. But some of that learning only occurred as we were starting to incorporate the payouts of those amounts. So I think the easiest say is we probably should have done it then, but the next best time is now.
Okay. So just insofar as what the funding looks like, basically we're short $1.1 million on a grant payout, correct? We're short. That's what the grant payout would be?
Yes, so, sorry, thank you for the question. So the application as it sits qualifies for $1,041,483. This is an estimated number, so we wouldn't know the true number until the post-assessment would be completed, but that is correct.
Okay.
And one thing to note, just on the previous application that did come forward, there was funding that was approved for that application initially under the adaptive reuse program. We were able to utilize funding under that program, which was existing and had funding available. This is the first application that's come through since there has been no funding. That said, we were definitely starting to flag this as a potential problem and looking at redoing the policy, but this is kind of the first opportunity we've had to bring it forward and kind of show the problems that we're having with it, so.
Okay, thank you on that. But just going back now to the grant payout being that about 1.04, the money we're going to make back on this when it's done and fully redeveloped though is we're looking at an estimated 2.74 million. That's what the city will make, so our return on investment will be 2.74 million?
Yeah, so how we look at that for the return on investment is what we would have collected in taxes on pre-assessed value, and then what we will collect on post-assessed value once the grant is completed.
Okay.
And so, yeah, if you look at the total amount that we would collect now that the pre-assessed value has gone up so significantly, we will recoup a lot of money in our tax base once they Well, and I guess in this case, this isn't a tax cancellation, so we would see that immediately. The tax increase would be immediate.
Yeah, the tax increase would be immediate.
Yeah.
So going on from that, knowing that we have an immediate tax increase with that redevelopment going on, we're seeing, like if I look at year 19, we're looking at a difference between $46,000 and $235,000. So we're looking at an immediate growth to our tax base on that
Exactly,
with the investment of the 1.04.
yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. One final question then, and this goes to Mr. Matthews. What would this look like if we referred this to budget for discussion, looking for the $1.04 million?
Thank you, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. So it would be another component in there to take into consideration with any other asks that are coming forward and any of the budget pressures at that time. So if you're talking about roughly in a tax increase component, that would be roughly about a 0.5% tax increase. If it was in base, if you're doing an ongoing program component. If you're taking out of one-time money, would be no difference between that.
But we could still look at it in that
That's correct.
budget process.
That's right.
And we'd be looking at the MRSR at that time too.
Correct, that's right.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
One clarification I would just give on the only thing on the tax piece, you're 100% right on the growth. The only thing that I would suggest here is because this is already, from an incentive standpoint, keeping in mind that it's naturally going to occur, we would actually collect more money if we didn't do the incentive on taxes right now. So when you look at the schedule that was provided inside of here, it would be the full tax amount coming in as an incentive for this property, not the reduced amount with the grant. So I just think that's the only other clarification we got to put in inside of here so there's full information disclosed.
Right. So we've got the two different development amounts, but as we start collecting the tax right away, right? We spend the money, we spend the 1.4, but we're still collecting tax and we're not deferring tax.
So we wouldn't defer, they would be constructing and they would be paying their taxes immediately anyways at the full amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We're not deferring it. There's a full amount coming in and it increases once they're done development. Yes, thank you.
So a question that I've got is I mean, we've answered a little bit here through discussion, but I'm still not comfortable with the answers thus far. We've got a program out there that's similar to some of the ones, and I was trying to remember the one we had the downtown for security and stuff like that. I was trying to remember the name of that one. SEPTEC, is it? Yeah, yeah. So even when that program is still there, it's just got no funding in it at the time. Is that not correct? I understand it's not that it's been closed down. It's closed for new applicants, but I believe it still exists, that program, right? It's just no funds.
So maybe I'll get Ms. Scheit to speak to that because there is still funding there. I can see on it.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you for the question. So the CEPTED grant program that we have ongoing still does have some funding available in it. So I'm continuing to take applications for that. Our Urban Core Property Improvement Grant and Urban Core Housing Grant were previously not funded through the last operating budget. And so those were just finishing out, and we have stated on the website that we're no longer receiving applications for those, even though there is policy for both of those grants.
Okay, so even when if that particular grant was completely expensed and there was nothing left in it, the grant still exists, but of course, if there's an applicant that comes forward, they're going to say, well, no, there's no funding in that until it's replenished with either a line item through council budget process, et cetera, correct?
That is correct.
So this is a concern that I've had with this particular one because, and we'd heard previously, it was still open, but why wouldn't administration at the time the applicant came in said there's no funding in here? Why would it come before council, this one, as opposed to some of the other ones, as I mentioned with other grants?
So we have directed applicants and let them know that there is no funding available. And so for this particular one, like I mentioned before, we looked at applying through the grant or tax cancellation stream first, and the applicant still wanted to proceed with the grant stream. Was directed that there's no current funding, which is why administration is coming forward to deny the application, as we know that there's no funding available. But they still wanted the opportunity to bring it in front of council to see if they would approve the funding. Similar to the TRIP applications that I brought forward last year for the neighborhood block development. There was 4 different properties there, 2 of which did not meet all of the requirements for the TRIP program and the policy as it sits. The applicant still brought those forward and asked council to deliberate on that to see if they felt that they wanted to approve those. So when the applicant asked to bring this forward as a grant ask, knowing that there was no funding, we prepared the report and I let them know that we would have to recommend that it not be approved.
Okay, sorry, I thought that applicant came forward to knowing that there was funding or something available. You've already said there's no funding. It would have to, okay,
Yes,
thank you.
correct.
Councillor Wolf.
Sorry, so a quick question, I think, to the developer. I guess I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. Are you able to speak to, do you feel like you as an organization were aware that this grant program did not have any funds that were ready to be allocated?
We were, yes.
Okay.
But, I mean, the grant is to incentivize the developer locally to actually do developments, not to incentivize and offset taxes for multinationals and national tenants. So the program doesn't work, and so part of it's highlighting the fact that this program for our current development, given our tenant mix, doesn't work to what the intent of the grant is, or sort of the incentive.
Gotcha. Okay, so, sorry, just for the newbie here in the room. So, so yeah, you kind of knew coming here, I mean, you guys knew far before today's meeting that this grant money did not exist, is that correct?
Well, if we're going to go back in time, this application's been sitting in different variations since 1200 Block was a large mixed-use project, which worked at that time. So this has been in the works for probably about 4 years.
Okay.
Yes, but yes, we did know, yes, Chris and I, or Shite and I had a conversation that there was no funding available.
Okay.
Unless council directed it out of another pot somewhere.
Gotcha, I just want to make sure I understood that. Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
All right, any further questions? Seeing none, to open debate, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much for this. We have the motion up here to deny the targeted redevelopment incentive application for the 1200 block redevelopment based on the information that we heard today. Just one question I do have, and I can ask questions during debate. Ms. Scheidt, just to confirm, the TRIP tax waiver, it could be the next step, right? This could come back as the TRIP waiver.
That is correct.
Okay, so it could come back.
The hope or the thought process was with this, the way it's written, is that we would put the grant stream on hold.
So it's just
only.
the grant stream going on hold? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Just so that it allows us time to take a look at the policy, and if there are still applications and applicants that want to apply for the tax cancellation, which, like Mr. Matthews has mentioned, is working quite well for other applicants, it still allows for those to proceed and to come in as applications, but we would just put the grant stream on hold for now until we have a chance to review the policy.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification before I go on with this. So what we've just heard, the grant stream is something that we would put on hold. There's still the tax incentive that we can move forward with. And this application could come back as that. And with that, I would ask for council's support on this.
I would ask, actually, Madam City Clerk, if we can split the motion, number 1 and number 2, clauses in number 1 and number 2. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no. And vote on them separately? That's a good idea. And I take that as a friendly, I suppose, or I could put, go ahead and do that, okay? Yeah, no, go ahead and do that. All right.
Can I just ask one point of clarification? Sure. If number 1 fails, it does not mean it's approved. Yes. I want that clarification. Okay. Okay.
All right, any debate or questions on the reasoning for this? It's pretty straightforward. I personally feel that number 2, coming in here, I have a very different outlook on this. I'm I'm a little dismayed that this wasn't dealt with earlier. However, I see that the TRIP program should be put on hold, and that's important because, of course, as we heard, you know, if we didn't do it back then, the best time to do it is now, and so I appreciate that, and so that's the reason to be able to split them. I'd like to be able to debate on each one. So if we'll move to the first, is that any questions on, I think we probably have had them thus far as them together. I don't know if the questions will be any different. And remember, when this is voted on, if you vote in favor, you're voting to deny. So just to understand that, because what's in front of us on the resolution, you vote in favor, you're voting to deny. Yes, it's tough to have a motion to vote in favor of a denial. But I just wanted, that's why I brought that forward, to make sure that we do know voting on this. And with that, if we can move to debate or to call for the motion. I see nobody's in the queue. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel? Oh.
Thank you very much. And yeah, seeing no debate, thank you for separating these two. Seeing no debate, I will, Councillor
Councillor
Croson.
Croson?
Thank you. I will be voting in favor of this, which is voting in favor of the denial. It is odd because I'm a huge fan of brownfield development. I like what is going on here, but I have to balance this against protecting the reserve and protecting that. And I know that they can then go back and look at the tax cancellation, which gives us more leeway to then look at a long-term funding instead of immediate funding. So I will be voting in favor of the denial. Thank you.
I will be voting against the approval of the denial. So, main reason being, I'm uncomfortable with why this is in front of us in the first place, and so to be able to split it up, I understand the TRIP program should go on hold. I just find that, again, as Councillor Croson had mentioned too, we're pro-development. We say we're open for business. This is, I wish this was pulled previously, so we wouldn't be in front of us right now. For that reason and many, I'll be voting against the motion number one, the operative clause number one.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Mayor Higgin, for helping me remember that, yes, we could split those two. On this one, I will also be voting against the denial, simply because, yes, we had the grant applications up there on the website, and while now is a good time for us to re-examine that, we should have re-examined this previously. So again, I will be voting against the denial.
Which again, does not automatically give the funding, as we had heard earlier, but it's just, okay. You know what? That's a really good question. It puts it into the hopper again to come forward for the application. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. City Manager or Designate. This is not an approval of it. It just.
So I think sorry, Mayor Higgin. So I think you would have to put some other operative clauses inside of this if you wanted something different. Right now, the way I read this, what this would do, it wouldn't really, I don't think, I'm not quite sure whether you want to fund it at this stage here or if you want to bring it forward at a later date and to say operating budget. I think there might be some other pieces on this breakout that you might have to do on the amending motion.
I was just going to ask, can we do a recess just for a few minutes here, just to go through this? I would appreciate this whole approve of a deny to I don't like the way that the motion's written. Just sorry, go ahead, Councillor Dodek.
We had a sort of process in place. We've been told that there's no money for this, and now we're going to do a recess to somehow ad hoc.
Clarify it so that we all know which way we're voting if we vote. Yes.
Well, it was very clear before. Yeah.
I'm going to withdraw this motion so that we can take a recess to add the clauses on here that we may need to. Yeah, I will withdraw this motion. Oh, you wouldn't withdraw it? We're going to take a recess so that we can add in the operative clauses that we need to. Yeah, okay, we're
Yeah, we'll
just
just take
take a
a quick
recess, yeah, on
5-minute
this.
recess.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that. We'll continue on here, and you'll see up on the screen the referral motion. Is be it resolved, the Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee refer the application for the 1200 block redevelopment on 3rd Avenue South to the 2027 operating budget deliberations in June 2026. So this is half of the motion after it's been split. So, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So understanding that this was a granting program that was live and active on our website, understanding as well that certainly while the applicant may have had it explained to him that there was no money available for this, we still had that alive and active. We knew that there were issues with it. So what this does is this allows us to refer it to our operating budget deliberations where we can discuss what a grant payment may or may not look like at that time. So what we're doing is we're moving we're moving this request for funds, like we did earlier this week at council when there was a request for funds. We're moving requests for funds to that budget process in June of 2026.
Questions, Councillor Croson?
Debate, not question.
Perfect. And you've opened debate. Can I consider that your debate? All right. Continue on, Councillor Croson.
I will be voting against this. We have been very honest with the public that the stub budget deliberation in June is just to extend 1 year. It is not for new initiatives, that we are just looking at what we have to do to get us through for the full budget debate in 1.5 years. And this is just going to open, in my mind, the gates to anybody who wants to come forward going, well, they've said that, but they don't really mean it. And I see it very differently than the other motion we sent to budget. That motion was our own operation, something we have said is a priority, which is asset management. And so I don't think the two are at all the same. And so I will not be supporting the referral motion because anybody who actually sees this will then be saying, regardless of what admin says, I am just going to get in front of the committee and I have a chance for money this year because they're sending things to the budget. So game on. So I will be voting against this.
Councillor Dodek.
I agree with Councillor Croson that there is a very big distinction between the motion that where the 127,000, which was clearly an operational matter, versus referring something like this. So I'm not quite sure what we're referring to do. Come up with a budget? That's going to be dealt with at some point in time anyways. But the reality is, as has been pointed out, the applicant was made aware that there was no funding in this. And if we're going to tell people that there's no money in it, you're right. You're sending a mixed message to everyone saying, there's no money here, but please feel free to come to council because you might actually get some money, or at least the chance of some money. So I can't support the referral motion.
Councillor Wolf.
I'm thinking back to the response of the applicant, and if we have a system failure somewhere, if we have, a program shortcoming or something that the applicant is concerned about, I hope that's something we can address and ameliorate and make better for future applicants. But I think I tend to agree with the other two councillors that the denial was given from the onset of these funds, and if there's a shortcoming in the program or something like that, then that's something we need to address. But I think maybe there is some merit to the thinking that we don't want to open up a precedent right now.
All right, thank you, Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, my tendency right now is, my whole thought process is we had a broken system here, let's fix it. And that was the whole intention for the original motion. Okay, we know we have a problem, sorry about that, and it was I feel bad for the applicant, but we're going to go back and fix it, and then we're going to figure, hopefully something can come out of that. So yeah, I'm going to be opposed or go against this denial. And against the referral, and because I just want them to get together to figure this out and come up with a solid policy.
Thank you, Councillor Doria.
Thank you, Mayor. Based on what I heard, like the program is still open, and what if there is another applicant who will be doing the same, and we are setting a precedent that we just have to, if we have no funds, then we have just to refer again to the budget. So I am voting against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bieber.
Due respect to Deputy Mayor Schmidt-Rempel, I think this referral motion just complicates it because the applicant knew the money's not available. So I think we need to keep this simple. And then, so I can't support this either.
Well, I see this as being different from what I've heard earlier. This is a operational thing. It's not going to open the floodgates, I don't believe, because it is an operational thing. This is internal, similar to the one that was earlier this week. This is internal. How we're going to fix some of that from coming forward later, as one of my colleagues has said, we're going to be voting on number 2 coming up, which would stop any future applications. So this particular one, it was open. The grant was open on our website. It's not an approval that puts it off to budget, but I see this very different. It's not going to open the floodgates in my opinion, but I'm hoping that I'm correct and that you're all wrong. But with that, I can see the writing on the wall of where this is going, but I will be supporting this referral motion. Thank you. And with that, to close, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Schmidt-Rempel.
Nope, thank you very much. I will call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? Oh, no, I think we've seen what it is. All in favor? And those opposed? All right, 3 to 5. 3 in favor, 5 opposed.
Okay, so then it goes back to the original motion as it was, number 1?
Goes back to the original motion, which is the negative motion. But as one of 2, it's still
It's still split.
split.
It's still split,
Yes. So the motion on the floor is, be it resolved, the Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee recommends City Council deny the targeted redevelopment incentive application for the 1200 block redevelopment of 3rd Avenue South, as currently there's no funding approved to support the application. So with that, to open Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
I will go back to my original debate on this, and I will call the question.
Again, when you vote to deny, so everybody's understanding where we're at here? Okay. All right.
No. What did we just do in the previous one? That was the referral. That was the referral.
All right, so we'll go, I think the question has been called. So all in favor of denying, raise your hand. And opposed? All right, same thing. Thank you. That is defeated, or yes, it's defeated, the denial. Motion is defeated. Now we move to part 2. This, I believe, I'm hoping will be a little easier. Be it resolved, the Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee recommends City Council put the grant stream of the TRIP program on hold with no future applications accepted until the policy has been reviewed, updated, and funding has been allocated. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
I have no debate on this. If anybody else has any? Nope, seeing none, I will call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. All right, moving on to presentations. We have the 2026 airport work plan, and I'm not sure who is presenting camera. It's yourself? Thank you, Mr. Prince. You got to sit through that one. All right, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of Economic and Finance SPC. So yeah, today I'm here to provide an update on the 2026 work plan. And I'll just take a brief review of the background of how we got here the history of the airport since acquiring it, and then what has been made in the last year, and then obviously our plans going forward. So the city acquired the airport in 2018. During that time, Lethbridge Airport supported flights from 2 airlines, which was Air Canada and WestJet, through their respective partners. And the aircraft fleet used to transport passengers during that time ranged from 19 to 50 seats and operated several flights per day. Lethbridge Airport saw its highest volume of passengers in 2019 at approximately 104,000, prior to COVID causing a significant decline in 2020. Air Canada exited the market just prior to the pandemic, leaving WestJet as the sole carrier. In addition to the commercial service, Lethbridge Airport continues to support other air service needs such as medevac, flight school, agricultural, and other general aviation uses. And since COVID, the number of aircraft movements in and out of the airport has continued to increase, with 2024 recording the highest number of movements and 2025 only slightly behind that. So it's still very strong. Then in 2022, significant renovations were completed to the airport to modernize the facility. And at the same time, the major airlines were also removing the smaller aircraft from their fleets and reducing or canceling service to regional airports across Canada. And in the fall of 2024, WestJet ended their partnership with Pacific Coastal, upscaled their aircraft to 78 seats, and then that resulted in the service being reduced to 1 flight per day. So since acquiring the airport, it has faced difficult economic challenges affecting its financial performance. Without intervention, the airport's reserve will be depleted by 2029, threatening operational viability. The reduction within the reserve is based on the forecast of general inflationary cost increases and the current revenues from the limited amount of flights. So to stabilize the reserve in a status quo situation, it would require funding to the airport reserve, additional funding for long-term sustainability. On the non-aeronautical revenue side, which are basically all sources not tied directly to the airside infrastructure, such as land leases, that has continued to increase since 2019. And although we've seen that increase, and there is an excess of land available, this growth is expected to flatten due to significant constraints, more around servicing costs required to develop the land further. Primarily around the sanitation service. Connecting the airport to the long-term growth planning, such as the IGMS and land banking strategy, will be critical to move forward in a methodical manner. Aeronautical revenue, which is anything tied to the airside, such as passenger and landing fees, has remained relatively consistent at around 45% of 2019 levels. So to look at things at a more macro level, regional air service across Canada is continuing to decline. The Canadian Airports Council published a study last year and found that flight frequencies have fallen to 64% of 2014 levels for regional routes across Canada, and Alberta is among the hardest hit at just 39%. This is primarily due to airlines adjusting their fleets and route strategies to remain competitive, as larger aircraft are more effective on a cost per seat basis. Reduced frequency leads to reduced connectivity and therefore more leakage to the hubs, and especially those airports within a 3 to 4 hour drive like we are to Calgary. These trends aren't indicative of municipal performance, but of market forces. Airlines continue to be challenged in returning to normal staffing levels, which leads to reduced flying and lowers their risk tolerance. This has also pushed them to upgauge their aircraft, as it allows them to keep the same capacity with lower crew requirements. Because airlines are making this change, it has the knock-on effect of manufacturers not building aircraft in that 19 to 50 seat range, and makes it more difficult to life cycle them for the regional airlines that are still flying. Myself, I've been involved with the Regional Community Airports of Canada Association for several years now, and this has allowed me to gain perspective of regional airports firsthand from across the country. And most are seeing the same trends we're seeing here in Lethbridge. Part of the RCAC's role is working with the federal government to advocate for support of regional airports, both in funding opportunities, but also regulatory requirements, which can add additional financial burden to airports working with minimal resources. So we continue to have two main goals, and that is to stabilize the reserve by growing revenue, and maintain the airport as an economic driver for the region by enhancing connectivity through new and expanded air service. The provincial government has taken an interest in growing air service in Alberta. So far, they have supported expansion efforts at a couple airports and then feasibility and business plans for several Alberta regional airports. We'll continue to communicate with the province to ensure we're prepared for any funding that may become available in the future. YQL is also a member of the Alberta Airports Management Association, who, similar to RCAC but on a provincial level, advocates for Alberta airports, and then that is a good way for us to stay on top of any new developments as they come out. So looking back at 2025, the items on this slide were chosen to highlight some of the major activities that were completed and required a significant amount of background work. In Q1, administration completed an airport viability planning workshop, which ultimately determined that more data was needed to move forward with a strategic plan. Admin, along with reps from Tourism and Economic Development Lethbridge, also attended an online consultation for a regional airport study hosted by the Ministry of Transportation and Economic Corridors. And this study aimed to determine the readiness and future state of the Alberta regional airports as part of their building this plan that they're working on. A presentation was made to Economic and Finance SPC in Q3, and that included a Q&A session from a representative from WestJet. And then in Q4, there was more talk from the minister about information on their regional airport study, and that they're considering a program to support regional air travel for budget 2026. As discussed in the Q3 presentation, the first phase of the data collection and analysis project was also completed. Having this data will help to inform our decisions around which air service opportunities to target. Since the service was adjusted to 1 flight per day, traffic has remained steady. There has been a significant improvement in reliability since 2024, with far fewer cancellations and delays. However, due to the community perception and the reduced frequency, demand has remained relatively low. Ultimately, the community has the power to improve the air service by demonstrating demand to the carriers. The timing may not always work with the available flights, but it is imperative that everyone's search begins with YQL whenever possible. So going into 2026, we continue to focus on 3 major sectors, starting with passenger service. We plan to launch a regional marketing campaign in collaboration with our partners to ensure the community is thinking YQL first before defaulting to the highway. As part of this, we'll be engaging the support of an experienced marketing firm to build a strategy and have the best chance of getting our message out to the region. And as mentioned in the last slide, the more we can do to fill the current flight, the more likely we are to see an increase in flight options. This will also ensure that if successful in landing a new route, we are ready to market it effectively. We'll be exploring more tools to attract air service to the community and continuing discussions with our existing and prospective air carriers. We'll also look at collection of data and an analysis to determine the financial impact of the non-passenger services. So that includes the things like medevacs and agriculture, flight training, military, etc. And finally, we'll be exploring viable opportunities for land uses that don't require significant underground infrastructure. So this could include industries like greenhouses and solar farms, as the primary limitation is sanitary service, which will require significant investment to bring to a state where further commercial and light industrial development can be considered. It is worth noting that although all this work is happening concurrently, the connection with the long-term growth plan is the highest priority right now. So for 2026, the primary focus will be on community engagement to build awareness around what is available today and encourage travelers to choose local. This is part of why we're here today. So these efforts will help to build relationships by showing that Lethbridge is willing to support and stand behind our partners and advocate for their success while aligning with Council's economic development strategy and advocacy priorities. By 2029, the goal will be to have the airport reserve stabilized through diversified revenue growth and strong collaborative partnerships. So moving forward, we'll continue to keep Council up to date on the status of these objectives semi-annually and bringing any critical information forward as needed. We'll continue work with our industry experts to build data sets and marketing strategies which will include working with all our stakeholders such as Tourism Lethbridge, EDL, Chamber of Commerce, and others to ensure our efforts are aligned. And with that, I will open up for questions.
All right, thank you so much for that presentation. I do have questions in the queue, starting with Acting Mayor Crowson.
Thank you, Mayor Higgin. Many questions. I'll just ask a few and then step out. First one, I know when you create a plan like this, it has to be created a while back, so you've been working on it a while. The world is changing, and we are seeing a lot more switch now to thinking defense. And you're an airport. Are you in on the conversations around that, and is that something that you are thinking about going forward? I don't need details, but are you in those conversations as the airport and thinking about what role that could play?
Thank you for the question. Sorry, I just wanted to confirm it's for events.
No, defense.
Oh, defense, sorry.
You know, when the Americans
yes.
attack us?
Yeah, so I have been in several, I guess, conversations and workshops around the defense side of things and the increased funding that they're looking to put out. So although the airport is maybe doesn't support the businesses directly as far as that goes, it does add a level of I guess, options for like Air Force and things like that. So I am in
We
those
are the
conversations.
largest airport closest to the border in Alberta.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we do see a fair amount of movement with the military
Okay.
as well. So
But you're keeping near to the ground on that from the airport perspective.
for sure, 100%.
I'm not sure if you can answer this next question or if it would be Mr. Brierley or someone else. So you're looking at a regional YQL marketing, and you mentioned you're going to collaborate and that you are going to make sure you're aligned with our economic strategy. How precisely do you do that? Because you are looking at hiring a consultant. So how do you make sure that that consultant does not go off in a direction that doesn't align with our branding, our marketing, all these bigger pictures? How does one department stay in line with everything else? And again, might not be you answering this, but how do we make sure that happens? Because all the departments seem to be doing these parts of it. How does it align?
Yeah, I might refer to Mr. Ulrich for this one.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Crowson. Great question. We are working with many departments within the city to get this done. So, for example, we've engaged strategic initiatives. We have communications involved with us. So when we look at doing this strategy, it's not looking at in isolation. We're working together with multiple departments to ensure that we're aligned in our strategic plan, aligns with our economic development plans as well.
Okay, so there is a thought to it. And my last question at this time, you talked about the province is going to do a regional airport study, we hope. There might be something coming out in the budget. It is frustrating because what we're dealing with is similar across North America. We see the US have their Regional Air Connectivity Fund. What is the federal government doing? That's the first part. We see Quebec has the Regional Air Access Program for their regional airports. Saskatchewan has their Community Airport Partnership. Is more advocacy needed? What is needed to get this past the goalpost? Because we're facing the same issues, but they seem to already have their funds and their programs in place.
Question, I think I might refer to Mr. City Manager on that one.
I'm sorry, somebody was talking to me. I didn't hear any of that.
And it was said with gusto too, Mr. Brierley.
Yeah, can you do it
I know
twice?
we've talked about this before. The province is looking at the study and may have money in the budget. But how do we, what can we do, what should we do with ourselves or other regional airports? We're so far behind. The US already has their Regional Air Connectivity Fund. What is the Canadian government doing, and can we move them along faster? Saskatchewan has their Community Airport Partnership. Quebec already has their Regional Air Access Program. I'm glad that, Alberta's getting around to a study, but is there anything we can do with this council or with colleagues to try to get this moving faster?
Well, no surprise to you, Councillor. My first answer, advocacy is key, but advocacy built on data and facts. So that's the work that we've been doing for a year. If I go back to, and it's in the presentation, going back to mandate letters with the Government of Alberta as far as 2022 really took off in 2023. That work, it's takes a long time to capture the data and do the work. That work has been ongoing since 2023. It should, my crystal ball's not perfect, but there should be, we're hopeful that there's something in the provincial budget that is indicative of of the work that's been done. And so then building on that as part of a cohesive plan within the province, working with the government of Alberta and the other 11, 12, Cameron regional airports, one of those two, is key, because the piece that is really important is the aircraft, when they're not being maintained, they need to be moving all of the time to make money, because the margins are so tight. So that connectivity of, if you're going to have a flight from Lethbridge to anywhere, it needs to go from there to somewhere to somewhere to somewhere. And that's the key piece, that to this point, it's been a very fragmented market across the country. And as the CEO of WestJet said, is there are very few large cities in Canada, and they're very far apart. So it's very hard to make money. So that holistic approach based on data, and the data capture and analysis is what we've done. So now we have some robust data sets that we can use to engage in those conversations in a meaningful way, to say, here's what we see, here's what makes sense. The airlines have a predictability in terms of traffic and numbers and revenue expectations, and then we can have the meaningful conversation.
Thank you, Councillor Dodek.
When I was on council in 2004, the airport was owned by the county. The county poured money into it. Eventually, they got the city to take it over. And in the presentation, it talks about stabilizing the reserve. And what I want to know is, the operations are being paid out of the municipal or the airport reserve. So what we're doing is we're taking money from pot A, putting it into the airport reserve, and then funding operations from that reserve. So since we took over the airport, how much money in reserves have been used to operate the airport?
Thank you, Councillor Dodek. I wouldn't be able, right off the tip of my head here, give the exact answer, but I can tell you per year right now, there's roughly about a $900,000 pull from the reserve each year that comes out to stabilize the difference between what we have in ongoing taxation versus the lost revenues from what was originally contemplated for operations.
Okay, so is there really some realistic expectation that passenger traffic is going to, at some point in time, actually become, income will exceed expenses?
I mean, yeah, I can take that. At this point, that's where the data collection comes in. So we're seeing some movement within the airline industry and some relocation of aircraft. So we do believe that there is opportunity there. Okay. And yeah, it's just a matter of getting at the strategies in place and the marketing side of it, which is the key point there to bring people in. So.
Okay, well, let's look at the data. In 2019, you said the passenger volume peaked at 104,000. If I divide that by 365 days in the year, that's 285 passengers per day. You, in 2024, in your presentation, you said WestJet upscaled to 78-seat aircraft. If I was going to take going out, coming in, using the number of 78, you get to passenger of 56,940, so about half of what was in 2019. You'd agree with me on that point? Okay. Now, my understanding is, and we've had this information provided to us by airports, that they do an analysis of airports and airport operations to determine whether or not they're going to be able to make money running out of an airport. In this case, we had Air Canada and WestJet, and that used to be a sort of a leapfrog thing. We'd have two, we'd have one, we'd have two, we'd have one. And to date, we have had, as far as I'm aware, no airlines that are interested in coming into Lethbridge, whether to be flying north, south, east, or west. Is that fair to say?
We are in discussions with airlines and there may be some interest out there. We're still,
Okay, well, let's talk about airlines that have shown interest in us. There was a discount airline, Flair, I believe it was, who had a discussion with us. And with great fanfare, we announced we are going to have Southern travel. And the announcement was made that we were going to have weekly service to Tucson. Of course, that didn't happen. And that's been a number of years ago. So I know it's always tough when you can say you have discussions with airlines, but I know what the answer is going to be, is saying, well, I can't reveal to you what discussions or which airlines or what we're talking about. So that puts us and the public in a little bit of a pickle. Do you see where I'm coming from?
yes, I understand for sure.
Okay, I'll step out of the queue for a bit.
Isn't that correct? Oh, you did put that in there. I did. Right. Thank you, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. Do we have my beautiful picture, Mr. Weston?
Just going to ask permission from the mayor. Yeah, you're good with it?
So this was sent to me by a local pilot. Where do rich people store their planes?
In hangars at an airport.
Okay, like, I think our main competition is Cardston and Tabor. Is that?
As far as specific locations, yeah, they're spread across.
And so if I'm a Lethbridge person, why is my plane at Tabor or Cardston?
That is a good question. I think part of it comes down to the land constraints that I spoke about during the presentation. There's also other factors as far as like our airport is quite a bit busier for traffic, so there's parts of that. If they live nearer to there.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's not a Tabor's 200% cheaper to do business with compared to Lethbridge.
Not that I'm aware of. No, I think it's we're definitely a bit more just considering where we're located, but it's not a significant amount.
Not significant. Okay.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that there could be quite a demand for hangars, that folks would gladly build hangars to store their planes and then pay us. Is that possible?
It is possible. We have had some aircraft owners reach out and express interest in building hangars.
And what were they told?
And we've the thing is we ask for more information, and then generally we have a hard time getting follow through. So we're always open to having those discussions. Like as I said, the land is difficult to develop right now, but we will always have the conversation to determine what will the impact be if it's just if we're just talking a single hangar, not a lot of water service or anything like that, then there might be opportunities there. So it is something we're always open to discussing.
Is that a strategy we could develop and then pitch to them? Like instead of them coming to us, could we not be going to them and saying, this is what we propose?
Might refer to Mr.
So
Stein.
I'll weigh in here, actually. We did do a study on a hangar study, so that work already exists. The predominant issue as far as flat space, no servicing, that's often where we run into issues is as soon as they start to get into a hangar that they want servicing with, that goes back to the infrastructure piece, and happy to talk about that. Mr. Kashuda has those details from a study on that. That continues to be the impediment, which is why we mentioned looking at alternate options such as things that don't require that servicing.
Right. Can I keep going, Mr. Mayor, for just a couple more? Okay. So in our efforts to educate, I guess this is just a suggestion, like when I think people's knee-jerk reaction to flying out of Lethbridge is the connection will be a nightmare. And I wonder, do we just need to like hammer the 5 flights that people can get out of Calgary within 2 hours of landing based on our current flight schedule? Like, can I get to Vancouver? Can I get to Toronto? Can I get to whatever those are? Because I think there's probably a big gap in knowledge to that for most folks in Lethbridge. And not to say that's not easy access information to find if I wanted to on my own, but as we all know, people like to just have it fed to them. So I think maybe there's an opportunity there. What do we know about Medicine Hat's operations compared to ours? Is there lessons to be learned there? Do they have strengths that we wish we had? What do we learn from them?
Yeah, thank you for the question. As far as Medicine Hat, I actually am in regular communication with the airport manager there as well. And it is, again, a very similar scenario where talking to airport managers across the country, it's almost the same. So anything they do that looks like it could help us, obviously we're willing to try it, and vice versa. We've helped them a little bit here and there too. So if there's any lessons learned, we're always looking out. And as part of me being on the RCAC board, that's what we're there for as well, to help all of us as airports to grow. So for sure, that's something we're looking at.
Sir, I'll step out of the queue now. I see some others. I'll come back in. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Rempel.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Mr. Prince, for the presentation today. I see in the presentation that our flight frequency has fallen to 64% of 2014 levels. So how do we compare with that to other airports our size across Canada?
Thank you for the question. So for that number, that actually is the Canadian average, the 64%. And then in Alberta, I believe the number was 39% of 2014 levels. So, so quite a bit. Alberta was hit harder with it, simply down to the fact that we have fewer regional airlines operating in our area. When you go look at Ontario and BC, there are more airlines operating out there, a lot of with the north as well. So I think that's part of why Alberta's been hit harder, but yeah.
Okay, and what specifically is Lethbridge's number then?
Right now, if we compare to our kind of peak there at 2019, we're roughly at, that'd be, I guess, roughly 20% of what we were in there.
20% of what we were?
20 to 30%. So in the same range as the rest of the province.
Okay, and how are we comparing to the other airports with regards to revenues versus our expenses?
Also very similar from what I've been able to gather from other airports. It's, if anything, we're pulling less out of the reserve than what other airports are. As far as the negative margins there, we're either at par or slightly better even than a lot of the other regionals. So it's, like I say, it's very common across the country, and we're in a similar boat to many municipalities.
Okay, and is that something that's going to come back to us as an update soon, Mr. Matthews? Sorry.
My apologies. I was looking for another number inside of here, but
Our revenue versus expenses, we know that we've got the numbers of what we're average pulling out, but are we going to get an update on how that's increased, decreased, done over the past year? Or
yes.
so?
Thank you, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. So yes, that comes in with our unaudited statements. We should be able to get that. The December, up to December 31st of 2025 will come in March to CIC committee.
Okay. And then just one more question. What are some of the activities we've undertaken to attract not just air passenger traffic, but are we working on cargo? Are we working on freight, anything like that? Or are we strictly just going to focus on passenger traffic?
Yes. So at this point in time, our main focus is passenger traffic. As part of our marketing strategy and everything else, it's going to include more than just that. But primarily, passenger traffic is seen as the best way to grow revenue at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Dodick.
Yeah, one question I forgot to ask about the 78-seat aircraft. What's the, over the year, what's the passenger load?
So the current capacity there, so last year, we came out at 28,000 total for the year.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
So roughly 50% of load factor.
So 50% of the seats were filled and 50% were unfilled?
Correct, yeah, on average, yes.
Wow. So if I do that calculation again, then the actual passengers going both ways is really only about under 30,000. Because you get 50%, take 50% of 78, multiply it by 365, that'll get you under 30,000.
Yeah, correct, yeah. It was just under 30 this year, or
Thank
last
you.
year.
Councillor Crowson.
Thank you. With the airport industry right now, there are two factors that are contributing, right? They're going to larger airplanes because that, financially works for them. But the other thing they're dealing with is a pilot shortage. And there was no mention in your report of it. Is there any role we can play, or is that entirely out of our hands? Because it's mostly an aging population, we know that, but we have post-secondaries, none of them which do pilot training, but is there something we're missing there to use that negative as an opportunity for Lethbridge?
Yes, thank you for the question. As far as what the airlines are seeing right now, it's not necessarily just pilots. That is obviously a main part of it, but it's also flight attendants and maintenance and all that kind of stuff. As mentioned, though, our airport does have a flight school on site, and that many people who did their flight training here are flying for WestJet now. So ultimately, what we can do is to keep the airport available for that flight training. That does help to feed the system, and this is a problem across the board in aviation right now, even with like air traffic control and entities like that. So we are. By having the airport and allowing the flight training to continue, that is actually the majority of our movements is from flight training. So I would say at this point, Lethbridge is contributing to that.
But that's a passive approach to it, right? Like, if you provide it, they'll build it. Should we be considering, are we considering, is any regional airport considering a more active approach to how to help with that? We have a lot of young people looking for jobs. We know we have an industry that's going to be running out of people. Have we had talks with post-secondaries? Have we had talks with the industry around what can we do to help supply that need for people to work in the industry?
I could take that. Short answer is no. Happy if that's something council wants us to explore. We can do that. Of course, there's some time, effort, and cost associated, and the value I couldn't determine at this point. But that's the build it if they will come, hopefully, approach. But yeah.
I don't know either if we're in an appropriate place, but if nobody's running with that opportunity, I'd hate to be the ones that think of it and not go for it. But I don't know if we are the best place for it. But
If I could, I'd like to weigh in on Councillor Dodek's question. I think, and Cameron, correct me if I'm wrong, but prior to the change in WestJet in how their flights were being operated, and even after for a while, there was a number of challenges with flight cancellations and on-time performance that was a very detrimental impact. And I think our passenger loading was sub 40% at that point. So quite abysmal. It has improved, the on-time performance has improved. It's what I would consider an acceptable number now, and flight cancellations similarly. So that's a good factor. The challenge, I think, is the time of the flight departure arrival is it, as well as the one flight. So the thing that I can say, airlines are always very sensitive about who's working with who and what being discussed publicly, but I can say that we have been in active conversations about additional flights and flight times to find something more optimal. Of course, when they look at it, first and foremost, it's a revenue base that they need to maintain, whether that's passengers or guarantees. And beyond that, they look at it as far as that flight connectivity into the whole. And those systems are usually going east or west from Calgary, Edmonton to somewhere larger, be it Vancouver, Toronto, Winnipeg, other places. So those are the two predominant factors that we continue to be up against. And then we target other airlines that aren't necessarily quite as system-wide as part of those discussions. So those discussions are definitely ongoing, but I know a number of airlines that we've spoken to, some flights that have come to fruition that have been at least a year and a half or 2 years in back and forth discussion. So it's quite the process.
Last question, and you talked about how you do go to conferences, you work with other regional airports. You're very well aware of what's happening in the industry, how all regional airports are affected. How do we get that message out to the general public that it's not just Lethbridge, it's something bigger? Because I think of this quote, and this is from the president of the Canadian Airports Council. The question isn't whether we can afford to support regional air service, it's whether we can afford not to. A connected Canada is a competitive, equitable, and united Canada. Airports are backbone of the economy. They are the backbone, especially for more northern regional ones, connecting people. So how do we make the conversation not just about our airport, but about airports, regional airport, and what they are actually providing to the country and to Lethbridge?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think that is really what the role of these associations are. And right now, for RCAC, they're working through a bit of I guess, a strategy to determine how to best get this stuff out and advocate for airports, particularly with the federal government. So as far as how to best get the word out and whether or not it will be well received, I'm not sure, but at this point, that is what us as regional airports as a group we're really pushing for, and CAC is also doing. They just did that study last year where I believe you got that quote, and they're also trying to do that as well. So ultimately, that's what it comes down to: is airlines are a business and they want to make money, but at the end of the day, small airplanes are what are needed, and they're expensive to run. So how do we balance that and find some way for everyone to win, essentially?
And that's the conversation we also need to keep having. Airlines make business decisions. Airports might make much more different strategic decisions for their communities, for their economy, et cetera. And the airport is bigger than the airline, right? We have the airport services, et cetera. Yes, and I also, just off topic, recommend my colleagues, if you haven't read that study, the one that was just done last year on regional airports, well, airport industry, it's interesting to see how we fit in with that bigger picture. Thank you. Thank you, Chair, or Vice Chair, I guess. When did you change?
Mr. Ulrich, did you have something you want to add to this?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to answer a question previously asked by Council about expenses and operating costs. So just looking at just some preliminary numbers, again, we still have to do year-end financials, but comparing 2025 to 2024, we do see there is a decrease in revenues of roughly about 17% right now. However, what's important to note was the question about the reserve transfer. The reserve transfer this year is going to be less than what was budgeted for, and this is due to our operating expenses being less by roughly about 65%. That reduction in operating costs are directly attributable to Mr. Prince and his team for some of the work that they've done to look at efficiencies to reduce the costs so that we actually can draw less from the reserve. So just want to make sure that Council hears that information as well.
Thank you, Mayor Higgin, and just want to follow up to Councillor Dodick's question. On the sideline here, I was working on the amount that's pulled from the reserve since 2019. There has been just over 3.3 million that has came from the reserve to offset the downturn in there, obviously from COVID and period and so forth as we went through.
Councillor Bieber?
There's kind of a white elephant in the room here that hasn't really been addressed yet, and which has been dealt with by the previous council in various presentations, and that's the commuter time and the cost to get to Calgary. I mean, you can drive up to the Calgary airport in 2.5 hours, cost you $30 in gas. So how do we convince local consumers to use the airport here and to use commercial flights? I mean, that seems to be a huge obstacle when people can just go at their convenience, don't have to wait for a certain time. You can rent a parking spot for a day or week or whatever. How do we get over that obstacle? Can anybody answer that?
I'm happy to speak to that question. If from admin, the council may have different opinions. That is exactly when we talk to the experts because of this and the ability to, when you go from Lethbridge, you will, even if things improve, you'll get to certain destinations and you can connect. But if you go to a larger city like Calgary, you can get almost anywhere from there. And that's exactly the challenge that the experts have continued to point out. And the analogy that is quite perfect is over time, you've seen a lot of change in the shopping environment from the individual mom and pop stores to the big box stores. It's the exact same thing. That's the challenge that we are up against, and it will always be somewhat limited. When you're in a city, so I'll use Grand Prairie as an example, where they have a large influx of people going there for different reasons, that drives a lot of traffic to places like Grand Prairie. So those are the differences that we have. So if there are other reasons to come to Lethbridge or to come through Lethbridge, that also drives traffic.
Councillor Wolf?
Was Councillor Doria before me, I think? I'm pretty sure she's been blinking for a long time.
You haven't a chance to chat yet, have you? Ask any questions. Actually, we'll go to Doria and then we'll come back to you if that's okay. Sure. Councillor Doria?
Thank you, Mayor. I thank you for recognizing that I've been there for quite some time before you. Okay. My question is for the presenter. If I look into the presentation, you indicated that in the YQL 2025 year in review, you made a lot of work, like there was already a study, and in fact, in Q4, you already indicated that there was already a start of data collection and analysis. Moving forward to coming up with a 2026 roadmap, there are many activities indicated, like not only for air services. You have indicated a non-passenger air service, land development, and then there is an asterisk indicated that activities are already initiated. So you have done substantial work on this. Are these data support your business justification that we have to anticipate a depletion of budget for 2029? Is this the data that supported with your first statement that the airport reserve anticipated to be depleted, when in fact there was already a lot of data analysis, and we even come up with a roadmap for 2026 that we have to continue this forward, but still we are thinking that we have to ask for more funding for 2029. Are these data really the one that supported this business justification?
Yes, thank you for the question. As far as the data is really is really being gathered to determine the demand for service out of Lethbridge Airport, and ultimately that data is going to be used to go to the airlines and ultimately, hopefully, attract them to our region. So as it stands right now, that is the forecast is what we're seeing. But all these activities that are actually already ongoing are what we're hoping to use to offset that over the next 3 to 4 years. And as Mr. Briley mentioned, it is a long process to have these conversations with prospective air carriers. So all this is basically building the base to go in and build up revenues and diversify, and then hopefully reduce the amount that we're pulling out of the reserve. Not sure if there's anything else to add there.
Just a follow-up, Mayor. So when we said that we are anticipating a depletion of our budget in 2029, so what are our supporting information to do this? Because we are still in 2025, we already have some information. Maybe this was not so positive information. I don't know yet because I haven't seen. And then we are going also for more activities for 2026. Are these inputs or are these activities still like not supporting that we will not be depleted in terms of budget, the portion of budget in 2029?
So at this point, so the information that we've gathered is it does show that there is still strong demand in Lethbridge as we've kind of seen in previous years. And now it kind of comes back to, as Councillor Wolf mentioned, getting it out to the public and really finding those destinations that really work and pushing that message as hard as we can. And that is something that will be happening as part of the marketing campaign. That is the key piece right now that we're hoping will start that process. And then the data that we're gathering is also allowing us to go to the airlines and help them make informed decisions on whether or not they want to start a business in Lethbridge. And then ultimately, the more we can attract here, it's going to grow the revenue and then reduce the amount we're drawing down.
Thank you. And I just want one more question. Can we anticipate a report ending 2026 or maybe early 2027 so that we will review whether we still need to look into the 2029 ask?
I'll refer that to you.
I'm happy to weigh in. So we plan to do regular check-ins, Rob. I can't remember, did we say semi-annually, I think, with council. As far as 2029, I'm not going to give false hope here, is getting to zero. I'm looking at Councillor Dodick. It feels like exhibition discussion here. The goal is to lose less. Getting to zero would be ideal, or revenue positive. I'm not quite that optimistic at this stage, and this is a multifaceted approach. So when we talk about use of land, so the ideal use of land that everybody thinks is, why aren't you developing the land and putting all of these other things out there? The servicing cost, and Mr. Kashuta can weigh in if needed, to service that land based on a study from 2022 that in today's dollars is in excess of $150 million to service that land for water and wastewater. Obviously, if you're going to spend that kind of money, you need to have a very serious, strong, and large anchor tenant that would be out there. So we look to other options that don't require that deep servicing. And we continue to explore all options there. That ties into some other studies that are underway within the city. And beyond that, look at the existing flight. Can we improve flight times? If we change flight times, is it likely that you get more optimal flight times, increased passenger traffic? Quite likely. If you have 2 flights a day, one flight leaving in the morning and another one coming back late in the day, pretty logical. That's going to increase passenger traffic, as well as other partnerships. We've talked about Department of National Defense, other things that could increase traffic to and from the airport or other revenues at the airport. So it's a multifaceted approach, as it says in the slide, to stabilize revenue, grow revenue, maintain airport viability, and include strong collaborative partnerships. So all of that is, again, back to losing less money. And that's tough to hear, but if you look at transit system-wide across the country, there's a very common parallel. Transit in a lot of cities, even like City of Toronto, where I was before this, it is still quite subsidized, and it has a bit of a social factor to it where there is a tax burden. What level of tax burden is the piece that we try to mitigate that to a degree, and if there's no interest in any, that's the thing. And the last challenge was previously stated, is the proximity to Calgary and the ability to get anywhere from Calgary. So the combination of all of that, as well as the changes in the airlines over the last number of years, make this very complex, which is why the province has been working on this study for over 3 years now to try to come up with a solution that will actually work.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Councillor Wolf was before me, so I will let him. So just
go ahead.
switch Ryan and I.
Go ahead, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Age before beauty, though. All right. Mr. Prince, do we have a completed asset management plan for the airport? And does that cover any of the critical deficiencies that we might be seeing coming forward?
Thank you for the question. As far as our facilities go, Facility Services does have an asset management plan for those. We will be working on a more formal asset management plan for the rest of the infrastructure. That being said, a lot of it was replaced during the 2020 to 2022. So we're sitting in a pretty good kind of spot right now as far as infrastructure is concerned, and our assets out on the airfield. So I think what we'll do is build out the asset management plan, but as it stands right now, we're looking pretty good. So.
Okay. And then we do see in the roadmap here, the one spot where we're pursuing land use opportunities, short, long, and temporary plans. Are we going to expect an ask to come back in those instances as we pursue those land use opportunities? And when might we see that coming back?
Sorry, we're working on some math that we just discovered of error. The land use opportunities, yeah, depending on what the requirements are. If it's something that, you know, of course, is requiring council's decision or council's interest, absolutely. But first and foremost, integrated growth management strategy, the strategy that's underway, and the land banking strategy are two foundational key pieces of information that we want to have in place to inform that before we go too far, because we don't want to do something that we later realize after we've got those studies that, uh-oh, that was a mistake.
Right.
So it's just that very strategic, thoughtful approach of moving forward.
Okay.
So it would be some time before we would come forward with anything meaningful, unless someone comes along and says, hey, we would love to build this. Of course, we will bring that to council.
Okay, thank you very much. And then one final question around that, and Mr. Byerly, you may want to answer this, or Mr. Prince, but I think this is more for Mr. Byerly. We currently don't have a strategic plan. This council doesn't have a strategic plan, nor do we have an economic development strategy. So how is data surrounding the airport, its operations, its revenues, its losses, how's that going to come forward as we're developing these plans over the next year?
So to refer back to my previous comment, any strategic plan, or what I might say business plan for the airport, will not be until after the integrated growth management strategy is completed. That is longer of two. Land banking strategy we expect to come back later this year. Integrated growth management strategy is a couple of years of work, which is why this work plan is before you today. That is actually sufficient. It fits in quite well with those other plans. The data that we talk about is commonly referred to as passenger leakage data, and Rob, there's some other acronym I can't remember. But it's where are people going to and from Lethbridge? You know, do we see that there is a pattern of travel for people from Lethbridge to Vancouver, Toronto, you know, Boise, Idaho, wherever. And so that's the data that we've actually been capturing, and that's the stuff that, those are year-long studies. And then you can compare over time from year to year to see, is that data consistent? That's what the airlines need. If one year is substantially different than the others, that's an anomaly, so it doesn't have the assurance that airlines want. So you need that multi-year data. That's what we use in those conversations with the airlines to say, here's what we see as potentially viable routes, here's the potential passenger numbers. And the last time we presented, I think Mr. Ulrich spoke to it, where he'd been working with tourism and the chamber. That's the anonymized data. Then non-anonymized data, more specific data to talk to the businesses, which the chamber assisted with, to get that, yeah, from business XYZ, we have people going to wherever 3 times a week. We compile all of that data, and that's what the airlines want in those conversations, and they are very, very careful about those conversations. They want to keep those very tight because that's sensitive information for them.
Okay, so going forward though, right now, as council goes into its strategic plan in March, then we won't be considering the airport as part of the strategic plan because we won't have some of that data to make data-informed decisions.
Yeah, I think there's pieces that we can maybe incorporate, you know, not at a granular level, but at a macro level, I think there are pieces that we could consider.
Okay, so there will be, like, in some form, there will be data coming back to council to help us inform, because we do have that strat plan coming before us in March, and we keep talking about an economic development strategy. But helping council make those decisions to see if we want to include in those strat plans, we need some data to make sure that we're being informed and making the right decisions as to whether we want to have that included.
Yeah, so strat planning's end of March. Between now and end of March, I'm not sure what we can give. There are some other pieces that we can talk about more in the second part of this meeting, and that we can see what might be useful out of that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councillor Wolf, it's all yours. Go ahead.
Maybe to the city manager, just can you give me some kind of like a number? Like, so without really touching the $150 million infrastructure spend, do we have enough plumbing there for 20 houses, 30 houses, 10 houses?
Mr. Kashuta, I'm going to look to you for this. I think my answer is no houses.
Okay,
But
well, that's
Mr.
fine. If that's the
Kashuta,
answer.
this is his area. He can answer that.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Currently, right now, I would venture to say there's very little room in the sanitary sewer capacity for any development right now.
Okay. So thank you, from one business owner at the airport, the top thing that I can think of would be to service some areas, taxiways, electrical, plumbing, where developers can build private hangars. From another trainer pilot out at the airport, if you want really to go next level, you would build student housing out at the airport, tied in with the college or university and making it an accredited program. Mount Royal has a program like that. The training is absolutely bananas at Springbank Airport. There is also a huge pilot shortage and only going to get worse. So I share this because I respect your report. I respect that, there's no unicorn coming to save us. I respect that we're going to keep spending taxpayer dollars on this in perpetuity. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. That being said, I really, really hope we are thinking out of the box of ways. If you tell me, Ryan, I can get you X amount of hangars for X amount of millions, well, okay, that's a spend, but to spend to stay status quo doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense either. And if there's no desire from council to mothball the airport, so I guess the challenge will be to you, sir, over time to come to us with some what? This might not sound comfortable, but you want to start looking at a light at the end of the tunnel project, this is it, or this is it. Because to me, continued updates of a quarter passengers going out and we have, please give us more money, that'll be frustrating for years, right? So I hope, now, and one other thing in my little diatribe here, traffic, we can't operate one-off charter flights to the States, way too expensive is my understanding. Is there an opportunity to capitalize on the lack of desire to go to the States? So we have one-off charter flights heading west, Victoria, Vancouver. Is there any economic viability to that if those planes are full? World Cup is coming up. Are there any one-off opportunities to start getting planes off the tarmac in Lethbridge?
Thank you for the question. There might be some one-off opportunities. Again, in order to support those opportunities, you generally need smaller aircraft, and they are generally quite expensive. So,
but I mean, if I'm Ryan Wolf's travel agency and I put out a package, fill the plane and we go, is in the industry, is that doable? Is that ever done?
I can't speak to it directly. I can't see why it wouldn't be, but it's going to be the cost that pushes people away from using it. Because right now, any one of us could go and talk to an aircraft charter and bring our whole family, but generally that cost per person is going to be a lot higher than going to Calgary or even flying out of Lethbridge on a WestJet flight than what it would be to charter it. So that's it's sometimes with teams and whatnot, if there's a big enough, then it starts to make sense. But in that kind of 19 to 50 seat kind of aircraft, generally it's much more cost prohibitive to try and charter it. So
okay, thank you.
All right, Councillor Bieber. Oh, is there something? Oh, sorry, Mr.
I
City
actually
Manager.
yes, if I could, Councillor Wolf, I heard you mention a couple of options, and if I heard you correctly, it sounded like both of them had servicing. And so I just wanted to restate that that small servicing is actually, unfortunately, it connects to the larger servicing to have that. There is a lagoon out there right now, and that lagoon is at 100% capacity, and it actually needs to be, all of that needs to be changed to fit back into the city's wastewater management system and water delivery systems. So that is part of that, is there just isn't anything that involves wastewater or water going down a drain. That's the problem. So we are exploring any and all options. And to your other point about those charters, we have all that information. It's just a bit sensitive. Happy to go through all of that and the second part.
Thank you.
Councillor Bieber?
Maybe Mr. Kashuda can answer this, or Mr. Briley. Just following up on Councillor Wolf's comments about hangars, just out of curiosity, how much potential land at the airport is available for development if we could afford to put in infrastructure, et cetera?
Mr. Laverty is here specifically for the land-related questions.
Thank you for the question. Currently, we have about 900 acres at the airport, but not all of that is developable. We're trying to establish how much could be developable down the road, but I don't have that number right now.
So we heard 900 acres, not all developable at this time.
Well, there's certain restraints on development, like runways and things like that, that interfere with the ability to really develop property on that space. It's, I guess.
Thank you. Councillor Bieber?
No, that's good. That's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Elrich, did you have something to add? Sorry, you were in before. I don't know if it's something previously, but feel free to chime in there if you can.
Just from something previously, just to let council know that I apologize. One of the information, as I said before, I had was putting the numbers in, recent numbers that we had for the expenses. Unfortunately, I realized that I had a formula wrong in the expense side. So the actual reduction in expenses is 4%, not 65 that was there. So there was an error on my issue copying that over. So just want to let everyone know that the reduction in expenses was 4%. But again, that just shows the work with Mr. Prince and his team of what they've done to make sure that the expenses, if revenues are going down, they're also looking at where they can cut costs to make sure that we're doing whatever we can to minimize that drawdown on the reserve.
Great. That does make a large difference. Thank you. Appreciate that. I see no further questions in the queue. My colleagues have one last opportunity. Seeing none, we'll move to debate. And this is Councillor Wolf. Be it resolved that the Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee recommends City Council receive the Lethbridge Airport 2026 Airport Work Plan Report as information. Councillor Wolf.
Mr. Mayor, is there any points for debate?
Are you in for debate? Or in for question? Okay. Yeah. No, if you'd like to ask a question, go ahead. We entertain a question.
Yep, no, I have a question, and it does come as out of Councillor Wolf's motion here. We're receiving the report as information, and I guess what I want to know is what exactly does receiving information look like for our administrative team? Is it a direction to move forward with the actions that are outlined in the 12 slides in front of us? And does that include an agreement to stabilize the reserve at this time? Because we do have a slide in there to stabilize the reserve, additional one-time funding in the 2028 operating budget. And I'm just looking for clarification on if we're accepting for information, are we also saying that we're going to stabilize the reserve at this time?
So the report is exactly as it's stated. It's just for information for council. There is no direction required at this time as far as reserve stabilization or other discussions. All of
actions.
those would come to budget.
Okay, so no other action is going to come out of this. We're just receiving it for information.
No other action out of this part of the discussion. Yes.
Perfect. Oh,
Councillor Dodick.
let's be very careful here about this part of the discussion. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, if we go to budget and there's decisions on reserve stabilization or other direction from council, that's another part of the discussion, whatever council would choose to do at that time.
Okay, so any request for addition to the reserve is going to be going to budget? Well, you know, we can't be saying one thing and then later coming out and saying something else. That is a concern.
There is a new thing in governance now that you don't need to vote for information. You don't even have to do a vote on this. We've heard it. Just say thank you. I've been seeing that.
Right, so the vote, if I can just get back to the motion that we have here is to receive for information. That is it. There's no financial ask in this, this particular motion. There could be other motions that have that, but this particular motion has zero financial ask. We've been presented. We're receiving just for information. So, Councillor Wolf?
If there's nothing else for debate, I'll call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? Okay, and that passes unanimously. Thank you. So I have a motion here from Councillor Croson that be it resolved that we now enter a closed meeting at 2:37 p.m. to discuss confidential matters with respect to 7.1 as per sections 19, information harmful to the business interests of a third party, and section 29, advice from officials of the Access to Information Act. Councillor Croson. Question's been asked. All in favor? Councillor Dodick, are we okay to go into closed? Yes. All right. That's unanimous. And we'll just take a quick break as well. All right, thank you. Welcome back to City Council meeting. I do have a resolution from Deputy Mayor Schmidt-Rempel, Airport Development Updates. Be it resolved that Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee recommends City Council approve the utilization of the existing airport incentive framework for future air service development, increase the funding commitment for the airport incentive framework held within the MRSR by $1.105917 million to $2 million total, and direct administration to negotiate with airlines for new or expanded routes, including items such as minimum revenue guarantee and other related costs up to the total $2 million, and return to City Council for decision upon final draft of negotiations. Further be resolved that the Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee direct that the closed session discussions pertaining to the airport development updates remain confidential as per sections 19, information harmful to business interests of a third party, and section 29, advice from officials of the Access to Information Act. To open up to questions, I have a question for Mr. Brierly or your designate. We see that this is a question we get quite regularly. What are you going to do to expand service out of Lethbridge? Why don't we have more flights out of Lethbridge, et cetera, et cetera? So when I'm looking at this isn't to spend these dollars right now. This is to negotiate and to try to find additional airlines or service out of Lethbridge. Is this a common practice and, within the airports?
I'll refer it to Mr. Prince to answer.
Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, this has become a common practice. It's actually been common in the U.S. for a long time now, and it's becoming more and more common in Canada. So across the country, this is becoming a common way to incentivize airlines to build air service.
And the second question to Mr. Brierly, your designate, these dollars are set aside, but it doesn't mean that they are necessarily going to be spent unless of course we have some results with, of course, additional airlines or service being expanded in Lethbridge. Is that correct?
Sorry, can you just repeat those?
So these dollars are being put aside, but and it's an up to an amount.
Correct.
So it doesn't mean that those dollars are going to be accessed unless we're going to see some results, obviously, moving forward with increased passenger traffic, et cetera, within Lethbridge Airport.
That's correct. So if these dollars are if we enter negotiations and these dollars are set aside, they will only be used in the event that that demand does not meet the minimum level. So assuming demand is there, we won't touch any of these dollars, and any negotiations that are underway won't be approved until we bring back to council for approval to actually sign on the dotted line.
Sorry, and just to finalize, a question to Mr. Matthews. We do have dollars set aside in this MRSR, and that's obviously the Stabilization Reserve Fund. Does this, if we ask the question quite regularly, what is left in that fund? And I know I've got the answer for me, but I'd like to make sure that the public does. So you'll say what the total amount in there currently is, and what is the amount after some of these different initiatives have put some funding on hold?
Thank you, Mayor Higgin. So, as of September here, we had $52 million, or just over $52 million inside of the reserve. There's total commitments and components that will come out of that around just under $30 million. And then if you take that down by the minimum requirement that needs to be in the reserve based on policy of $14 million, then you get to the end, which is the number you're looking for. Is there's about $15.8 million right now that could be used for components. And as I stated earlier, there's a number of different things that council will use that for, but there's available funding for this ask.
And some of these commitments can fall off that are on there, which would increase the amount that's available.
That's correct. So some of the commitments that are in the reserve, depending if all those funds, for whatever they're for, don't get spent, but it's only based on actuals that we bring them in. So once that work is completed, they would fall off it, and they'll release it for council to use for other future requirements in the future.
Thank you. Councillor Dodick.
Yes, I would like someone to explain so that a Lethbridge taxpayer who doesn't understand airline jargon, what minimum revenue guarantee means. when you're offering that to an airline?
Thank you for the question. So a minimum revenue guarantee is essentially showing the airline that they are going to make a set amount of money by trying this route. So we're essentially going in and guaranteeing them that they're going to make a certain amount of money. So if they are targeting to sell 15 seats and they only sell 14, we will cover that extra seat as an easy way to put it. Obviously, if they sell 18 seats, now we're not paying anything out, and the airport is actually making money through landing fees and passenger fees, et cetera.
So in short, if they don't make what they expect to make, the city is backstopping them potentially up to $2 million.
Potentially, that is correct, yeah. But they are limited, so every year there's going to be a limit. So we won't just keep paying this out nonstop, but there is a set limit annually.
Okay, I'm curious. The resolution doesn't say that, so it says up to $2 million.
I don't know, maybe refer to Mr. Briley to.
Yeah, I looked to council as to what they might want to include in the resolution. But as far as the revenue guarantees, let's say to Mr. Prince's comment, if it's a 30-seat plane and they realize that, you know, break even or just better is 15 seats and they're only selling 14 for that period of time, we would cover that. And that's part of the negotiation and contract, most of which details are confidential, which would come back to council.
I just want to emphasize that the resolution says that it can be up to $2 million. That's all I want to emphasize. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel?
And just, I know you can't provide specific details, but to follow up on what Councillor Dodick said, will there be an exit after a certain amount of time if it's not working out?
Yes, so thank you for the question. As part of these negotiations, we will build in clauses that essentially say that, you know, if it's not working out for either party, we'll mutually decide to end the agreement. Also, these agreements generally only last for 1 to 3 years, so that $2 million will cover up to that full amount. So you're basically telling any prospective airline that we will give you these funds for up to 3 years, a max of this much annually, but up to a max of $2 million. Of course, this is negotiated on a case-by-case basis and may not ever reach that $2 million mark.
Okay, thank you.
And just to confirm, no dollars today are being spent. The decision will still come back to council, and that would be with hopefully a successful negotiation before any funds are spent. Is that correct?
I just sent the clerk a message. Actually, I would suggest we just put that right into the resolution.
Because that's something of importance. So we're not spending anything unless we actually get a result. Okay, yes, I would like to have that in the resolution if we could. And Councillor Crowson, while we're just getting that together, do you have a question?
Again, it's more in clarification. Basically, what we're doing is setting aside a bank account for you to go negotiate with 1, 2, 3, 5 airlines. And this is just a way of saying we're open for business for this type of negotiation. Do not in any crazy way think we're spending $2 million on one negotiation, but we are ready to start having negotiations. That's what we're doing, is setting a bank account aside. Okay, thank you.
So the change here that we've got, just different from what I had read earlier, is related costs up to $2 million on such terms and conditions are negotiated and returned to City Council for decision upon final draft of negotiations. So Council still has an exit prior to spending any dollars. That's a main question that I would have. We still have that exit. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That gives me some comfort. Thank you. Any further questions? If not, to open debate, Deputy Mayor Schmidt-Rempel.
Are we good? Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for our administration for bringing the presentations and information forward and the robust discussion we've been able to have about this. So what we're doing through this resolution is we're directing administration to add funds to the airport incentive framework for the reasons that are outlined in the motion. This is work in investing in our airport. That's part of our economic development investment in our city. And this potentially can grow employment opportunities. It can help increase our access to air travel, which we all know is key to visitor travel to and from our city. These dollars, again, as we've heard, will only be spent. This is just going into a reserve, so we're setting the money aside. These dollars will only be spent as our negotiation work is successful, and even that will be coming back to council for final approval before we move forward on anything.
Councillor Dodick.
From my experience, money that's set aside for a specific purpose does tend to be spent. I have had a lot of experience with the airport, having started in 2004 when the county owned it. And ever since then, it's been basically downhill in terms of passenger usage, and that's because we're so close to Calgary. So we were told that in 2019, we had something like 104,000 passenger load, and then this year for 2025, it's been dramatically reduced. The thing I don't like about this resolution is the fact that we're even considering minimum revenue guarantees. If an airline isn't prepared to conclude a Lethbridge to wherever flight is profitable, then it probably isn't. So my fear is that we are going to, in fact, enter in an agreement that has a minimum revenue guarantee and then end up paying money until such time as the airport is no longer profitable. That means when they're no longer receiving their minimum revenue guarantee. I think this is a road that we should not travel. It was discussed years ago when there was a joint, the city was involved in providing money to the county regarding that, and discussions with respect to minimum revenue guarantees was discussed at that time, and it was a decision at that time that that's not a good idea to expand an airport. Either an airport can stand on its own 2 feet, and it's got to be profitable for airlines. We've seen that we've had 2 airlines here. One of them was left. We're back to 1. We've had this leapfrogging 2 airlines, 1 airline, 2 airlines, 1 airlines. I just think minimum revenue guarantees are not a good idea, and I cannot support this.
Thank you, Councillor Wolf.
Sorry. I appreciate Councillor Dodick's, I think, historical knowledge and point of view on this. That being said, you know, we are going to consistently come against this conundrum of what to do with the airport. And, you know, when we did our orientation just a few months ago, we kind of had, at that time, not too much on the horizon, and then so I think that we need to acknowledge the hard work that's being done to try to find some viable solutions here. And as long as we're willing to have an airport, then we will have to make these kinds of tough decisions to facilitate the use of the airport. I'm actually encouraged by the thought of Vancouver. Sorry. And other destinations that have been brought forth, other possibilities. These are things we have to consider if this airport has any shot of ever being viable. And thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bieber.
I want to state my appreciation to administration for all the hard work they've done in this. And, you know, I'm going to support this motion, but whether I vote on it again, when it comes back to us, is going to depend on the exit strategy, which I think needs to be favorable to our community and our taxpayers, who I don't think are going to be appreciating the fact that they could be subsidizing an airline. But I do like this, so for right now, I am willing to support this right now, but I'm going to hold the decision, reserve decision, on how I proceed forward after this. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate all the work as well that's gone into this, and it's been frustrating over many of the years of what we're going to do to try to get airline traffic, if it's either passenger, cargo, or whatever that looks like, out of our airport, being that we're so our close proximity to Calgary. But looking at this and understanding that there'll be no additional tax implications to move forward with this, and that we do have an off-ramp. To me, that's extremely important. We're still going to make that decision. It's just reallocated from a reserve fund and holding for this, but we do have that off-ramp, as Councillor Bieber said, and at that time, I want the ability to be able to vote in favor or not if there is an airline that is found that wants to fly out of Lethbridge. And so I appreciate the fact that there is an off-ramp. I would probably not be voting the same way if I didn't have that. And so to allocate those funds for that possibility of having another additional flights out of Lethbridge, I will at this time support it. And back to Councillor Schmidt-Rempel to close.
Seeing no other comments from my colleagues, I will call for the vote.
The question's been called. All in favor? And opposed? All right. Thank you so much. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
We need to have a little